Thank you so much for being here, and I am really excited to share with you what I create with one of my favorite supplies in my studio. I love using my Jelly Arts gel plate, and I have just about every size except for the biggest one. The one that I have is an 8 by 10. I also have the squares, the 5 by 5s, the 6 by 6, the 5 by 7s, and the mini gel plates, which are really, really cool to play with too. So for today's demo, I'm going to use a 5 by 7 gel plate, and I'm going to use some envelopes to make a card. And I just loved this idea when I first saw Lollapalooza demonstrated, and I just figured I'd do my own take on it and use a gel plate. And instead of using printed papers, create my own prints on these envelopes and then fill them in with other gel plate creations to make a beautiful card that is going to be unique, that is going to be very, very personal, and also something that cannot be replicated, which is why I love using my gel plate. So I'm going to share what I have on my workstation right now and kind of walk you through. And you can also see me. So it's not just the workstation. You can also have a look at me talking. It just makes things a little bit more personal, I feel, when you're able to see the artist as they're doing the demo. But if my face gets in the way, I will take it away. You will still be able to hear me. So this is my gel plate. This is the 5 by 7, and I don't clean my gel plates. You can see there's still paint, dried up paint from earlier. I don't clean it because of two reasons. One is I'm lazy, and two is that when I have imprints or colors on my gel plate from a previous session, when I sit down to do another gel plate printing session, I'm able to lift off some things that I didn't even remember were there. They show up in a unique way depending on what color I use and what order of prints I use. So it's just fun, and it's something that is a nice surprise. And I like surprises, so that's why I don't clean my gel plate. It's not something that I would say recommend do or not do. It's your choice. If you like to clean your supplies after every session, do that. I also don't clean my brayer. This is a soft brayer. It's a rubber brayer from Speedball, and you can see that there's layers and layers of acrylic paint and some patterns on it. And what I do is when it stops spinning because there's so much paint and it becomes too thick and it kind of interferes with the rolling movement of my brayer, I just make a little notch at one of the ends and I just peel it off. And what I get usually is a big, thick, long roll of dried up acrylic paint, which I then use in my mixed media journaling. So don't let anything go to waste is my motto, and not cleaning kind of works out for me. So I subscribe to that model of working with my supplies. So I also have a couple of things that I will be using to make my masks and my textures on my prints as we're working through this session. I have a leaf. I love fall because you're able to collect so many different kinds of leaves on your walks in the neighborhood and then use them for gel plate printing. So I thought I'd at least show you a way of masking with one leaf. In particular, I love ferns. If for any reason you don't have access to leaves, you can always cut out your own stencils. You can use paper. I also love using my craft plastic from Graphics or Duralar, both of which are non-tearable. And so they last a lot longer, and I just cut them out with scissors. I'll just sketch out a design and just cut it out with scissors. You can also use chipboard. So a couple of ways to make your own stencils, your own leaves, if you will, and then use them on the gel plate as masks. I also love collecting feathers on our walks at the beach. And the biggest ones I have are from pelicans from Half Moon Bay, and they make for gorgeous prints. But this, I think, is just from a seagull over on the beach. And I just pick them up and, I just spread these out. You can see that this one already has paint on it. And I will just spread them out gently so that I get more of the veining. And I'll talk about ghost prints and such, and also about how you can layer patterns over the gel plate and use different colors and color blocking techniques, and then use something like this feather to mask off all the noise and kind of elevate the print. This again is, one of those odd things that I collect. I also collect egg cartons. So basically, this is produce netting. So oranges, avocados, sometimes come in these nets, and I just save them because for me, when I look at something like this, my instant thought is, oh, texture. So once you start doing gel plate printing, you'll essentially start looking at things around your house very differently. My child's blocks, her Lego blocks, have not been spared. and she used to have these little wooden blocks that had poetry on it, but they also had raised images, some illustrations, and I use those for my gel plate printing. My husband's combs from United from the airplane, just anything, and yarn, thread, rope, twine. This is eyelash yarn, just stuff that you would normally not even think about that you can use. Also, if you have washi tape or any kind of packaging tape, sometimes you use the tape up and then there's this spindle in the middle that's left behind and we toss it. I save it and then I'm able to create prints with this. And then, of course, my favorite mark making tool here is the bubble wrap. It's in just about everything that comes packaged, and you can see how well loved this is. And I also don't clean my bubble wrap. I try not to keep using new bubble wrap because I sometimes like when some of this paint transfers over onto the wet paint on my gel plate. And again, it's that idea of unexpected things being introduced into your creations, things that you didn't intend but kind of found their way in. And that really is my style of mixed media, where things, happenstance is welcomed, and there are no agendas when playing. There is no end goal in mind. Things go the way they go, and I work with them. I'm a big believer in having no rules when it comes to playing. And art for me is play. I try to be like a 4-year-old when I'm making my art, when I'm here in my studio at my workstation, and I try not to think of it as work. I try not to, unless I am doing demo videos for companies, when I'm making a video for graphics arts or for Michaels or for Jelly Arts, then it's different because there's a product that I'm using and I'm demonstrating how to use that product. But when I'm playing for myself and I'm, sharing my art with the audience, with my followers and my private Facebook group called Mansi Makes With You, and on my YouTube channel, I'm not going in with an agenda. I'm just there to play, and I'm there to encourage people to do the same, to just play, to not think, to take their brains and keep them aside and not worry about the color wheel and not worry about, oh my goodness, what's going to happen if this turns into mud, and not worry about anything really. Just, go with your intuition, go with your gut, lean into it, see what results, and do it afraid, because it's really frightening for people to not work within a framework. And I don't provide that framework. I am all about just letting go, letting loose, having fun. So my color choices are the same way. Today, as I was getting ready, my workstation, just getting ready for this demo, I just was feeling like red was speaking to me today. So I pulled out red. I usually almost always have yellow on hand. It's such a happy color and it just infuses such happy energy into my paintings. So I almost always use yellow. Sometimes I will have it on the side and not use it. So today might be one of those days. We'll see. I also got a Prussian blue because I don't know, something about the depth of these two colors today is calling to me. And you'll see I mix and match my brands. I love these color shift colors from folk art, and they just bring this metallic sheen to the paintings. And they're just fun because when you tilt your painting in the light, the color changes, and I just love that. So I have these, and as I said, I'm not a brand loyalist. I do believe in investing in good quality paints if you want to get good results. But at the same time, the gel plate is such a forgiving tool that if you're just starting out and just want to play and not want to spend big bucks, craft smart paints are fine to use as well. Because again, the gel plate is all about the unexpected. It's all about grunge. It's all about creating layers and playing with masks and things like that. So perfection is definitely not the goal with any of my work. Invest in good paints for sure because they're more pigmented. You actually end up using less of them if you have good paints, good quality paints. But if you don't have good quality paints, if you have student grade paints, that's fine too. It's not a problem. Just play, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Don't feel like you're limited because of these options, because of the supplies. I also have these Lumiere paints from Jacquard, and they are metallic paints. I basically throw everything on my gel plate. I also use water reactive inks. I've used watercolors on them, and I have a couple of courses on my website on gel plate printing starts from the basics, goes on to advanced, and then goes on to botanicals. So it kind of builds upon itself. These courses at courses.mansimakes.com if anybody wants to look at those. But for today, I thought I'd do kind of a combination of, we'll start with the basics, kind of do some advanced pattern making, and then also show you botanicals. So you'll get like a snippet of the possibilities with the gel plate in this little demo here today. So I'm going to start off with one of these colors. I guess I can start with some yellow since that's my happy color. And you can take these prints. You don't have to, if you're new to gel plate printing, you don't have to do the project I am doing, which is using envelopes. You can just use plain paper and get your prints on plain paper and then decide to stick them on envelopes if you want to do the envelope art making. But I have these plain envelopes, and I actually did not measure what size they are. So let's do that right now. So this is a 5.5, 5 3/4 by 4.5, 5 3/4 by 4.5 size envelope. Envelope size doesn't really matter. It's whatever you have. Use that. You know, this is what I had in surplus. These are gray. Also, color of envelope doesn't matter because it's all going to get covered up eventually with all the luscious paint that you're going to put. But the flaps, this part here is what's going to get glued. This part is going to get glued. So if you don't have a pattern on that, that's fine. But everything else in this envelope is going to stay exposed. So this is going to be beautifully covered up in paint, as is this. And we're going to make a card out of it. So we'll see how that works. So for the gel plate printing bit, I also have this sheet of paper here, which is cardstock paper. And I'm going to use this as my Brayer sheet, and I'm not going to trash this after this is done. What I mean by a Brayer sheet is when you roll your paint on the gel plate, you often end up with some excess paint. You want a very thin layer of paint on the gel plate for impressions to be picked up on your paper as a print. And if you have a thick amount or a lot of acrylic paint on your gel plate, you won't get a good print. So you'll get a print, or I shouldn't say you won't get a good print. Let me take that back. What you will get is a great print, but you might not get the impressions of the textures that you wanted be as clear as they could be if the paint were thinner. So you want to roll your paint really, really thin, and you want to roll off the excess on this sheet of paper here. We're not going to trash this because we're going to use this sheet of paper as well. Okay, so here we go. I just have 3 blobs of yellow, and I'm going to roll my brayer up and down, diagonally or horizontally. It doesn't matter which direction. Just play with it. Just make sure every time you do this movement, you lift your brayer up and away from the gel plate, up and away. And the more you do it, the better you'll get. And you see how the paint starts drying up those 3 dots since I've been talking? I put the paint down those 3 dots and then I started talking. So that paint started drying up over there. So that often happens, but that's okay. And you can start off with textures right away, or you can just leave that be your plain first layer of color. I'm just going to put some texture on there with my bubble wrap, and then I'm going to take my envelope, and I'm just going to put the envelope down on my gel plate directly and just press down. And I'm being firm, but I'm not being destructive. I'm not pressing down so hard on my gel plate that it creates permanent indentation on my gel plate. And I'm noticing that you can't see this corner of the screen. So I'm going to take my face away, and hopefully that shows you the whole thing. Just going to do that. And then once I am satisfied with how much I pressed, I'm going to peel off just a little bit and see if the gel plate is running clear. And it is running clear, which means I had the right amount of paint, and I pressed down hard enough for all of it to transfer onto my paper here. And so you see how we have a really cool texture from the bubble wrap right there. And that took, what, 5 seconds? And you have a beautiful background. And now we're going to do the same thing here on this side, but we could do a different color. So we could have our entire envelope covered in different colors and using just one texture, the bubble wrap, and seeing how amazing just that bit looks. And again, you don't need a lot of paint as you're doing this. A little goes a long way, but you also want to be mindful of how fast or slow you're working. The slower you work with a gel plate, the faster your paint dries up. So if you want to keep that in mind, I'm just going to layer on top of this, but I'm not going to layer all the way because I just want to show you how fun it is to layer color upon color. Maybe I'll just do part way. Let me just do part ways. See how that looks, just to show you the difference and how fun it can be just to do parts. You don't always have to put the whole paper on your gel plate. You can just play with that. And you see right away, this is just so much fun. And it's just so simple and so easy. And you've got a decorative envelope right there. I actually love making envelopes this way to accompany the cards that I send out because, you know, it's like an instant dose of happiness when somebody gets mail that is so colorful. So you could always just use these envelopes for mailing out cards. And you see what I mean by the paint drying up? So as I'm talking, the paint is actively drying up. It's a warm day here. And the way to resuscitate this is by adding another layer of paint on top. So anytime your paint dries up on the gel plate, you can just add a layer of clear gesso, or you can add another layer of color, and that will re-moisten your gel plate. And so all of this print that is still on there does not go to waste. It still gets lifted up. And now we have an opportunity, since I'm introducing this yellow onto my plate, I have an opportunity right now to use that part of my gel plate to introduce a different texture. So I can take some of this eyelash yarn and I can just place it over here, and that will introduce a new pattern onto the envelope. I'm just pressing it down. So you see how that eyelash yarn created this. This is masking. It's masked off the white and created that beautiful pattern there. A lot of it still didn't get lifted. So all I have to do is just go back in there, press down harder in these areas because I know that the paint is still there, and just continue lifting it up so that I don't have those many blank spots. And even if I do, it's fine because I'm going to keep layering over this and I'm going to keep covering it till I have no more gray left. And I might just do the flap even though I know it's going to get glued. Do you see how vibrant and vivid this is? And it's bubble wrap. I do not know who invented the gel plate, but whoever did, I mean, this is just genius. It's such a cool way of creating prints. These are monotypes because there's only one. You can only make one of each kind. There's no way that you can replicate this, even with the same materials. I kind of like how it has bits of grunginess to it, and you know, I'm not trying to get a perfect print anywhere. I'm just trying to introduce color and not have too many bold spots on my envelope flaps. I'm just kind of picking up paint in bits and pieces where I can. And I'm going to leave this be like this. I think this looks really nice. I do want to cover this up because for some reason this is bothering me. So I'm just going to cover it up and I'm going to use some yellow. Maybe I'll mix some red in that and make an orange. I think that'll be fun. And then that can take us on to the next envelope as well. And I'm just going to continue creating these similar prints, maybe in different colors, on all my 4 envelopes, and continue brayering off the excess onto my Brayer sheet here. And you see how I can just easily mix my colors on the gel plate itself to create this nice orange. And maybe this time what I can do is I can take my punchinella and I can just roll my brayer over it so it leaves an impression. So it's still going to be circles, continuing with the theme of the bubble wrap here, but it's going to be a different pattern. Maybe I can just do this and then pick up the excess if I need to on the other side, or the side that doesn't get covered. You got a nice soft look over there with that. And again, as I said, this part is likely going to get covered because we're going to be gluing it down, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to just enjoy this process for what it is, and I'm having fun. And that's all that matters, that for me, that is enough. Just having fun in the moment and enjoying making this one envelope. So it's really, really easy to create very different looking envelopes. And for some reason, this is now giving me an idea of doing a rainbow if we can. So we did the red, yellow, orange kind of. So maybe we can do something with blues and greens next, since I do have my Prussian blue here. Yeah, let's do that. And maybe then this will become our rainbow sheet of excess paint. So again, as you can notice, I am talking my ideas through as I'm doing this. I did not have a plan coming in. I do not usually have an agenda going into my work. No matter what it is, it's not just with the gel plate. I usually do not know where I'm going to end up. And I have done 2 recent workshops. One was for a reversible mixed media zine that I did a week ago. And then I also had, whoops! Oh, a lot of that came out. I also had done a 7-week workshop with attendees from all over the country where we talked about letting loose with mixed media. And it ended up not being about mixed media at all. It ended up being a journey of self-discovery and letting loose and really letting ourselves go. And letting go of ideas, letting go of inhibitions, letting go of perfection. I mean, so much stuff. Ooh, this is so, so cool. I just wish I hadn't had that spill because I'm definitely not using that much paint on the gel plate, but it is making for a very cool looking Brayer sheet. So if something like this happens, what you'll usually see me do in my demos, I actually do have a lot of accidents, and for those familiar with my YouTube videos can attest to the fact that most of my art results from happy accidents. So I'm actually going to just take my finger, lift some of this off. I have another envelope here that I can probably just smear this onto. And that can be my envelope art of the day with finger painting. So I know, I mean, some folks get really disturbed by the fact that I'm such a nonconformist and so unorthodox in my approach. But I really feel that it's alarming because we somehow think that there's this pedestal that one has to be on to feel like an artist. And I disagree with that. I think everybody is an artist, and it shouldn't take special anything to feel like one. There's art inside each one of us. What is art? It's a way of creatively expressing yourself, and some of us do it in a methodical way, others do it in a non-methodical way. That really is all there is to it, and no one way is better than the other. No one way is more correct than another. It is just what speaks to you and what gives you joy. You might be the kind of person for whom method is important, and that is what you gravitate towards. For me, it's not. For me, the process it has to be freeing. It has to be something that just comes from within and is not something that feels bound to a certain set of rules. And, that's just my style. That doesn't have to be your style. But what I am encouraging people to do every time they attend an art session with me is to not feel limited and to not feel like, kind of use that. Sometimes, we tend to use things like that as an excuse. We procrastinate. And I encourage to let go of those notions if it helps those people find their voice in a way that they can't by following a certain set of rules. And I've noticed that it frees people up enough to be able to do that. I mean, look at this. If that spill hadn't happened, I wouldn't have had this gorgeous sheen. I just would have used a very small amount of that paint. And I love how that yellow and orange got picked up from the previous print. So it has this nice grungy effect. And instantly you can see how these two are so different, right? Both gel plate patterns, but very, very different. And while I still have this paint here, I will try to lift it up on the flap. And again, not really paying that much attention to positioning of patterns and where things might land. I am just playing and picking up colors and patterns. I just love the sheen on this. So I'm going to enhance this a bit with some of this color shift paint, and I will still use my Prussian blue because that is just such a gorgeous color. So mixing that in with my, and you don't always have to mix 2 colors on the gel plate. I mean, you can mix 5 colors. You can do stripes where you just put all the different color blobs here and just roll it out with the brayer, and just, you'll have stripes of different colors. You can also just do 1 color and do a gradation of that color. It really is up to you what you do with the gel plate. And that is why I keep saying it is such a forgiving tool, because there really is no wrong way of doing anything on this. There really isn't. And anytime you have a question about, what if I did this? Or what if I did that? Or should I layer this over that and see, like, I wonder what would happen? My encouragement is always to go with that feeling of wonder, pursue it, and see where it takes you. Give it a chance to flourish and find the answer. Don't let that curiosity go to bed. It's one of the best ways to be playing as an artist is to answer that question of what if, to follow through on that journey and see where it takes you. Because sometimes I have found I have surprised myself, and I have a vision in my head, and what has resulted in that journey is, something completely different. It has revealed something else to me. And sometimes it has nothing to do with art. I love how it left that impression of the envelope itself on the gel plate. That is so cool. I'm just going to get some of this impression on my envelope here, and I do still want to get that sheen. So I'm going to go back to my jacquard. I like how the color shift kind of added a bit of sheen to it. There's some metallic you can see, but there's not that much. And this sheen is very different. And I also kind of like how it just picked up that rusted feel, the grunge from the red and yellow. This time I was really careful about how much I put in there. I think there must have been some blockage from earlier, and it just bursted out that first time. And I'm going to put some bubble wrap, because I noticed I don't have bubble wrap in here. So I'm just going to do that. Press that down. Maybe this way. I think I have enough paint. And again, the idea is not to get in kind of perfect. There's nothing perfect about any of this. It's all play. It's all child's play. And it's all about having fun and enjoying yourself in the moment of creation without any agendas, without any thought of, is this looking good? Is this not looking good? This is more a journey of exploration. What is good is so subjective, and this is more of, let me enjoy the process. Sit back, relax, let myself just be in the moment and just not think about anything. I'm not making any decisions here. I'm not deliberating about anything. I'm just kind of going with the flow, seeing where it takes me and appreciating the outcome. That's all I'm doing here. And that really is my method. I don't dwell on my choices. And I think it's just very, very freeing to be able to do that, because then you're just creating for the sake of creating, not for anything else. So I have this one envelope and I have this one envelope, and they both look very, very different from each other, right? And these are the back side. So we have 2 envelopes. Now, since we've got blue, we've got red, how about we do purple? So if I take my purple color shift and maybe if I mix it in with some blue, I should get a nice purple shade. And again, I wasn't thinking about doing this, so I didn't pick up colors of the rainbow. So I'm just going to sit here and use what I did pick up. And that again is something that I advocate a lot in my classes, is just once you sit down use what's within your arm's reach and don't worry about anything. We could take this feather and we could just roll it like that and get some feather prints on the next envelope and then do some circles over it. We'll see how that looks. But there are so many ways, there are so many things that you could put on the gel plate. It's mind-boggling to me how much you can achieve. Now you get very, very subtle print of that feather. If I had actually placed the feather on there, it would have been a different result. But I didn't do that. So that is what I got. But I will show you how to mask with a feather too in a minute, once I'm done with all of my background mark making here. Because this is just kind of laying the groundwork for what is to come. This is the first piece of the puzzle. And again, this is, you could use patterned paper that you already have. I just choose to go this route because it's just fun and it's unique, it's different, it's creatively very, very satisfying to make your own envelopes that are, something that you can't buy in a market. You can't shop for this stuff. This is something that you make and only you can make. Anybody else following the same process will not have the same results. And I have seen that over and over again in all of my gel plate printing classes, in person and online. We use the same supplies. We follow the same order of doing things. We do the same process, and yet the results are different. And I think it's because of the energy we all bring. We all bring our own energy into our art. And that is why it is so unique. Even when the same process is being followed, even when the same supplies are being used, it's what's within us is what's getting creatively expressed onto the paper, and what's within us is different for each one of us. So that is my firm belief. I want to make the front side a bit more purpley. It feels a lot more blue right now. So I'm going to use some of this color shift, the pink one, because it's a pink purple. And I'm going to use some of the other purple color shift that I have been using from earlier. And I want to introduce some circles onto the front because the other two have circles on them. And I'm thinking that that's a nice theme to have. So I'm just going to use some of that. And this is turning out to be a really luscious looking, very regal looking piece of paper right here. So for these circles, I'll use the empty tape holder, and I can just make more circles and patterns and, child's play again. Be like a child. What would a child do? A child might do this. Another child, if you gave them the same piece of equipment, might drag it, and they might make something that looks more 3D. It's just, again, having fun being the key to all of this. I'm going to make this a bit more purpley, as I said, by doing that. And so you see you've got this subtle circle effect. You still have some bit of that feather, but this is distinctly more purple than blue, right? So there are simple ways to keep layering and achieving some things that you might have in mind that you want to get on your envelopes this way. Or if you're just doing a simple sheet of paper, to achieve on that. So we have 3 done, and now I think we want some greens. I'm actually debating whether it would be too cool if we did another green. Maybe do another red and pink. I think I'll do red and pink instead. Changing my mind as always. So again, this is freeing when you're able to give yourself permission to change your mind and you're not going with, this is what I'm going to do today, because it organically evolves. And I find that to be really satisfying when something just evolves organically and you're not overthinking it, you're not planning it, you're not dwelling too much on it, because it's fun to see where this journey takes you. I have a feeling this is going to splutter all over too. So I'm going to be a little bit careful about this. These are really old paints, and that is again one of my agendas this year in 2021 is to use up the supplies that I have before I buy anything new. So whatever I have in my stash from a while ago is getting used this year. There are mediums that I haven't used in years. I bought oil pastels many years ago, and I never got around to using them until this year when I vowed to try something new. And I just mixed this up willy-nilly. I didn't give it much thought. I was not segregating these colors out. My color shift, my Lumiere, and my acrylic paint. And for this envelope, let's do a mix of textures. So you can also use your bubble wrap the other way. Both ways basically is fine. Either way is fine. And then let's put some punchinella on here. Kind of break up those circles. Put some netting over here. And then where's my tape? There's my tape. And then just kind of go that route. And take my envelope. Press it down right there in the middle. And my hands always tend to get really messy when I'm doing this because I end up using them quite. Oh, look, it picked up some of those blues. How gorgeous. That was unexpected. Well, I should have expected it because I had left the blues in there, but just the layering here is just unbelievable to me that the gel plate does that so fast, so quick, and so forgivingly. You can't create this. I can't paint this. I know I can't paint this even if I tried. And that's where the fascination for me lies in this technique, is that it always has these unbelievably beautiful results without any work. You're not really having to work to create these because it's just spontaneous, and the gel plate just does that. So we're just going to brayer this one color. This is a halo pink gold, and it has such a beautiful shine to this. And maybe over here I can use a spork, and I can make some spirals or just some ribbony designs, if you will, and then get a print of that onto my flap. And again, this is the part that is going to get glued. This is not even going to show, but I'm just having fun. So that's just, life is too short to not have fun. So just play. That's what I always say to people. Just play. Just see. A lot of times when I'm doing my demos, I'm asked the question, can you use this on this? Or can you layer with this on top of that? And my answer usually is, if I haven't tried it, if I've tried it, I'll tell you. But if I haven't tried it, my answer usually is, why don't you try it and see what happens? It's just paper, What are you going to lose? Nothing. So just try it. And it's great to be curious. It's even greater to follow through with that curiosity and see where it takes you. It is just paper at the end of the day, and you're just expressing yourself freely. That's what this is. It's free creative exploration with no agendas. I'm loving this fork over here. So I'm just going to go for it. And if you don't have a spork or a fork, you could also get the same effect with a comb. This is just so fun to do. See, I just completely understand why children have so much fun playing when they're creating art, because they come up with all of these cool ideas. And my best teachers, I haven't learned how to do art professionally in a school setting, but my best teachers have been those little kiddos in preschool that are so uninhibited, that don't don't really give a damn about what works and what doesn't work. They're just playing. They're there to have fun. And that is the spirit that I love when it comes to art making, is just having fun. Okay, I think I'm going to call this one done. I'm going to put this aside so we can work on the remaining part of this project. We might end up coming back to the gel plate to show you masking with the leaf, but for now I'm just going to make some space over here and set this aside so we can actually see what the project is going to look like. And I will be cutting this sheet up. So the project, what it's going to look like is we have our 4 envelopes, and we are going to paste them on to this sheet of paper, the flaps on, in a way that these will become the inside of the card. I might not do the 2 glues together. These will become the inside of the card, the envelope pockets, and then we'll have, so it's going to be like this, flaps that will fold over each other. And you can fold them this way or you can fold them another way, but it's basically going to be contained within a square. These are all rectangles, so it's going to be contained within a square. So what we want here is to cut out this sheet of paper as a square, and then we can figure out how we are going to fold these after we glue them on. But that's kind of what we're going for, is this square. So I'm going to trim this piece of paper. So what I did was, I do have another piece of paper that I want to put in the inside where you can write a message out. So I'm going to have that be a plain piece of white paper that you can write a message out on. And then all of these we're going to decorate, and we can do masking. So maybe as I'm explaining the process, also thinking out loud, maybe a better idea is to do the masking first, so that once all of this is glued up together, we're not taking this on the gel plate. So if we decide that we want the blues to be our cover, for example, if that's what we decide, and then the back of this looks really cool by itself, but this is what the back is going to look like. So I'm going to cut this up, trim this to size, and this is what the back will look like, or the front, however it'll turn out to be. This is going to be one thing that you see, this is going to be the other thing that you see, and then you're going to open it up like this, and then you're going to open it up like this, and then there's going to be a message over here that you can handwrite, and then there's all of these pockets that you can stuff cards or photographs or what have you. You know, so many things to do. So I'm loving that the reds and the oranges and the pinks and the blues and purples are like this. I'm just trying to figure out how I want this oriented so that I can do my masking accordingly. Do I want it to be like this, opening up like that, or do I want it to be the cool colors on the outside and the warm colors on the inside? I actually love this. I just am so in love with this. So I think I want this to be my outside, and I want to do a bit of masking over here with the leaf. So we know now that these are the fronts that I want to show masking on. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to bring back the gel plate, and we'll do some leaf masking so you can see that. And then I will trim this next. So for leaf masking or feather masking, I mean, we could do either, but I want to show leaf masking first. So for leaf masking, here's our leaf. All you really are doing is you're getting the leaf design over here. You're going to blend out everything else on this. The leaf will be your mask, so you'll see this pattern showing through the leaf. That's what our goal is. Now, since we used all the reds over here, we could use just white, use a neutral color, or black to mask out the rest of the stuff. I am leaning towards white because I feel like the red, all the colors are going to pop through better if we used, let me use a transparent white actually. I'm just going to grab my Liquitex white. I'm just going to use this here. So again, same process as before where we use our brayer. Now I don't have a brayer wiping sheet, so all of my copy paper becomes my brayer sheet, and I just kind of keep going over it, over and over. So you can see that this is a very transparent white, and just looking at it and looking at this, I feel like it's going to be too light. It's not going to provide the drama that I wanted to provide. So I'm going to change my mind here. I'm going to use a black instead. So again, the beauty of being flexible and giving yourself permission to change your mind as you go along. And again, this might end up being not what I'm envisioning in my head at all. This might be completely different. It might not even look like what I want, but I am willing to take that chance with you in this moment and see what results. Okay, so we have that. This is the moment of truth where I get super duper nervous every single time I do this. And I don't know at times why I do this to myself, but I get really nervous. Even though I have given in to the universe and I have said it's okay, I still get nervous about the outcome. But I also know I won't be disappointed. I think that's where the difference is. That if it works out, great. If it doesn't, it wasn't meant to be. Something else was meant to be. But here, this is what was meant to be. So you see how just using a leaf mask, it just transformed the entire feeling of this envelope. It's just divine. It's different. It's just amazing. So we have this gorgeous, gorgeous ghost print over here now, which if I have another sheet of paper to lift off on, or maybe I can just take it off of this. I have this beautiful teal envelope here. I'm just going to take a print. This is called a ghost print that I'm now lifting off on this envelope. Oh, look at that beauty. So we got a ghost print, a skeleton of a leaf right here. Now at this stage, I think I want to wipe this because I don't want, or maybe not. Actually, let's not. Let's not do something I normally don't do. Let's stick with what I know to work, which is not cleaning. So again, rolling another layer of black and then doing the same thing with our other envelope and our leaf right here. So maybe place the leaf this way this time. You can change it up. Just know that whatever, if your finger touches the gel plate, it will leave an imprint. So this was my red one. I'm going to use the same technique on this one. So this is my yellow one. It looks really pretty, and you might think I'm ruining it, which I might be. I don't know what I'm doing here. I just know I'm having fun. I'm playing. Maybe I'll do it this way. I'll just do it this way. And let's see what happens. I do want to have another sheet of paper right now to hold this because I don't want to get black everywhere. So I'm just going to use this. And I just have a stash of all of this copy paper. You can see this is another gel plate print. Things that I am not happy with, I still save them because who knows when I might use them for what, and they might start looking good to me at another later date. Oh, this is interesting. So it didn't quite press down. So which is why I say peek before you pull off the whole thing. Always, always peek. Peeking is good. So it didn't quite press down in some areas. And I want the mask to really work because I want it to be dramatic. So here we go. This is what this envelope now looks like. It's just such a simple thing, and it gives me so much joy when something like this happens. So we have one, we have two, and I think for the blues, maybe we could get away with doing white. But we might have to use proper white, not a transparent white, a more opaque white. And I will also need to clean my brayer out so that I do not get any gray on my blue. So this is how I clean my brayer out, is by just rolling it repeatedly until it runs almost clear. And there's my ghost print. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so let's see what's going to work with the blues. Should we just stick with the blacks? Just keep it consistent? We might just want to keep it consistent because then it looks like one card on the inside. Let's just keep it consistent. Let's just do black. I'm gravitating toward black. Let's just do black. Not in a dark mood. I just think that it becomes more dramatic when you use black versus when you use white. And if, you know, I've always said in all of my gel plate printing courses, if it doesn't feel right, any of your prints feel too muddy or too boring or too blah or meh, just use black. You know, black, by virtue of being black, adds drama. Ooh, I want to preserve this. I don't think I'll be able to, so I'm going to say goodbye to this beautiful part. Maybe it'll show up, maybe it won't, but that is what happens. That's part of the process. Gotta let go. Okay. So without overthinking and without holding something as too precious, we go forth and we create anew. We give a new life to what already exists and make it look different. And just play with it and have fun. Oh, I was able to preserve that. Look at that. It's like moonlight dance. This is just so pretty with all the shimmer and everything in it. Haven't completely lost the blue in the background, haven't completely lost the netting. Still got my rust in there. This is so, so fun. And then I have another post print, which I don't care for in the moment. So I am just basically using my copy paper to lift off the excess paint. And then we'll do our last one, which is also another blue. And then we can start assembling the card. How do you know that you have enough and not too much? That is an easy thing, but how do you know when you have too little? So when you have too much, you can easily tell because of the splotches on the brayer and the gel plate itself that that's too much color. But if you keep brayering, you will also see that you're lifting paint off the gel plate. When you're lifting paint off of the gel plate as you're brayering, it means that you have too little paint. And at that point, you need to stop and reassess. Sometimes you may need to actually put some more paint back on. Retarding agents also help. Golden makes one so that you can have the paint stay wet longer, especially on hot days or when the AC is running in the house and your paint is drying up too fast. Oh, I just love this. Oh, this is just exquisite. And it has those circle marks that show up when I tilt it in the light, but they don't show up if I don't tilt it in the light. That is just such a nice hide and seek kind of pattern here. Okay, I'm going to put this aside now because I think my gel plate work is done. And now I can trim this sheet of paper to the right size. So I want this to be the same size as my envelope, but just a little bit shorter. So I believe that the size, the square that I used here was a little over 5.5, 5 3/4, I think. Yes, that's the size I had. So I'm just going to make this square the same size too. And I'm going to trim it with my trimmer. Make sure it's a square. So this is the part that I'm going to be working with, gluing all the envelopes on. And I'm not going to throw these away. I always keep strips of paper because I end up using them in all my art journals and sometimes my tags and whatnots. So now we're going to start the process of gluing. So I'm just going to take my 4 envelopes here, and I have my uhu stick, and I'm going to start applying. I'm going to flip this over because this is the part where I'm gluing on. I'm going to start applying glue to the flaps. So all I'm going to do is put the glue on the flap, like so. And just place the paper on it. And the paper's just a tad bit shorter on both sides. I'm just centering it so you can see that the paper that I cut out is just, there's just this little much give in the corners. So that's, oh, did I glue it on the wrong side? I did, didn't I? Ack! Oh, the pleasures of doing this live. Okay. Use the wrong side earlier. Right side now, so that this is the back, or the front of the card. Actually, it is the back. It's the back. Okay, so we've got that one in. The same thing, but on the opposite side, because we're using blues on the opposite ends. So again, take your flap, put glue on that, and then just glue it over. Make sure that you flip it so that you can actually center it. So you have that panel over there. And then we'll do the same thing with our reds. And apply glue to the flap again. Place it over here. Make sure we flip it over so that we can align it properly. Feel like it needs to be a bit to the side over here. We do want to make sure we're not getting in the way of this folding over this one, which it will sometimes, but when it does that, you can just rescore your folds, because this is envelope paper. It's not very thick, so it will conform to a new fold if it needs to. I just want to make sure that I have it lined up properly with my edges not coming out. I feel like this one didn't quite stick that close to the edge as it should have. It's kind of coming out of the edge, so I'm going to re-glue this. So it takes some practice to do this. I've only ever made 2 of these before, but I love the idea of making these with gel plate prints, which is why I decided to share my technique with you today. But with some practice, you'll get it right. You just have to make sure that it's not going out of that cardstock bit right there. So just sliding it down a notch, because the envelope paper is not sturdy, and I don't want that getting affected. Also, make sure that this folds. I've gotten too way out. Okay, so this one is turning out to be quite a challenge for me. Let me see if I can do it this way more efficiently. It might work out better to do it this way. There we go. Do not give up. Okay, here we go. All right, that's folding. And now that's the last one here, where we're going to put glue on our flaps. Oh, this one turned out to be so beautiful too, this particular print. that I'm now covering up. Okay, we've got this. Let's make sure that this is all right. This is all right over here. We're still going to be able to fold. We are. Cool. Oh, so this one here is having a bit of an issue with this one here, so we're going to refold some of this right here so it lines up properly. And then we have this one here lining up. We don't want it tearing. And you can also use a scoring tool or bone folder here to make your folds a bit more seamless and secure. And there you have it. There's our envelope card. And then this space here, you could just leave it like that. I think it looks really cool. Or you could put a plain sheet of paper over here. And so that way you have a place that you can write on. So you can, of course, also embellish all of these and then, start tucking things in to the envelope pockets. But this just by itself looks really, really cool. And you can keep folding it any which way you want. I mean, you can have different patterns emerge as you're unfolding it too. You could just do it with the blues inside and with your red maroon kind of going like that. You could also have this one be your top flap, like so. You could put a little crocodile thing over here and just tie it around with a loop. And then that's your back. And for the back also, you could just do another gel plate print on this, or you could just sketch out something. So it's totally up to you how you want to make this work. I'm just going to rescore this a bit because I noticed it jutting out in the back. But yeah, here it is, it's done. And it wasn't that difficult to make. It was actually a whole lot of textures and layers that got hidden, that got revealed. Some things you see, others you don't. Some things you see only when you pay close attention. And to me, that in and of itself brings so much to the table when you're able to hide and show and discover and feel. And you can add texture pastes to this. You can add some journaling elements to it. There's a whole lot of stuff that you could do to make this something even more than what it is right now. So I will spend some time on this, and I will be able to share some photos of the finished card when it's all done. I will be sharing it on my Facebook group, Mansi Makes With You, which you're welcome to join. It's a private group, so you do have to ask permission to join it. And I just require everyone to be kind and courteous in that group. So I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed this demo, and I look forward to seeing you on Facebook at Mansi Makes With You if you're so inclined to join. I also do a lot of YouTube live demos. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. And I invite you to join me on YouTube as well. And just look out for Mansi Makes on Facebook or YouTube, and you'll be able to find me. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate your time, and I hope this was fun.